don't have to be affected by what happened to you anymore. That's not to say that it hasn't had a big impact on your life. You don't have to let it have so much power over you. You can choose to let it go and choose a better life for yourself. Hello! In this video we're going to talk about how you can stop choosing a bad life for yourself. I don't know if what I'm going to say can be construed as quite harsh. If you are not in a good space right now, maybe save this video and come back to it. I do not want to say anything that will make things worse for you. There is a certain type of person who I'm thinking this video will be helpful for. I'm going to talk about this idea of stop choosing a bad life for yourself in the context of my addiction, so hopefully this isn't going to feel like I'm attacking you, because I am speaking from my own experience here. So this video is going to be two parts. Part one, about how you need to accept things in order to let go, and part two will be about how letting go will let you move forward. Let's get going. Part one, you need to accept things in order to let go. So you need to accept who you are. Wow, okay, thank you for that. Sorry, my tone already is so off. I feel like I'm already being defensive about this, but this is a topic I'm really passionate about. You need to accept who you are. So start with acknowledging what has happened to you. When we're talking about stop choosing a bad life for yourself, what is one thing that has happened that you keep focusing on? I don't want you to think about it to like beat yourself up or make yourself feel worse, but I need you to think about that thing in order to acknowledge what's happening here and notice your feelings as you think about it. So anger, hatred, sadness, pain, resentment. I am again speaking here about my addiction. I feel a lot of things when I think about the way that I used to behave when I was in the grips of my addiction. It's very painful to think about all of the hurt that I caused other people, the ways that I acted which are not in alignment to how I want to act and the person that I want to be. It's hard to acknowledge that I used to be that person who was very selfish, self-centered. I'm not saying I'm not now. Everyone has their character defects, but my addiction had completely taken over my life and was like the only thing that I could think about. Now, I know when you think about this sort of stuff, you might feel an impulse to just run away and not deal with it, but it's important to sit and feel those feelings and just kind of notice them and let them wash over you. Don't engage with them, but just notice how you feel when you remember this event that makes you feel bad about yourself, or makes you feel like you did something wrong, or makes you feel just angry at the world because it's a bad thing that's happened to you. For me, accepting that I was an alcoholic was a big part of moving forward. I had to accept this in order to let go of it. So I had to accept the label of alcoholic and all of the stereotypes that go with it in order to let go. And now that I have made that step and I just accept that this is what I am, an alcoholic is anyone. I've met all kinds of people, like the whole range of people like that you will not believe, and they are all alcoholics. So for me now, there is no idea of what an alcoholic is, but I know that a lot of people have a stereotypical idea, probably like Frank Gallagher from Shameless, right? That's your idea of a stereotypical alcoholic. And I was like, well, I'm not like that, so I can't accept that I'm an alcoholic. And I used to be embarrassed about saying to other people that I was an alcoholic, but now I'm just like, well, this is who I am. Like, I can't change it. I've accepted it. I've let go of it. It's just a fact now for me. It's just something that's true and I've accepted it. And because I've accepted it, I can let go of the way that I acted when I was drunk. Yes, I am embarrassed. I feel guilty. Sometimes I am even ashamed of the way that I behaved. But whenever I feel those things, I remind myself that I'm safe now, and I take a deep breath and I make amends to myself and to those around me by not drinking. So every day when I'm not drinking, I'm making amends for the things that I did. And that is all I can do. I can't control the past, like I can't change it, I can't alter it. I have to let go of what I did. And I do that by accepting who I am. I am an alcoholic. The next step of accepting things in order to let go is you need to stop defining yourself by what happened to you. Now, this is gonna maybe sound contradictory because you're like, but you just spent time like talking about how you're an alcoholic now. Yes, yes, but the point is that when I was in my addiction, I couldn't admit that I was an alcoholic. I knew that I was. I've known since I was 19 that I'm an alcoholic, but I just couldn't admit it because I was scared of that defining my life. I didn't want it to define me, and I was making that assumption that that's what would happen. Now, yes, being an alcoholic is a big part of my identity because I need to maintain my recovery, maintain my sobriety, but also it's just a part of who I am. It's just part of my life. Also, in terms of stop defining yourself by what happened to you, I am a recovering alcoholic. That's how I define myself now. I'm no longer in active addiction. I have stopped letting the past define me, and I've stepped into a better version of myself. I talk a bit about this in Act the Way You Want to Feel, another video that's up here if you want to check it out. I'll also leave it in the description. So I've stopped defining myself by what happened to me. I am no longer like, oh, but I did such horrible things. I don't judge myself anymore for the way that I acted when I was drunk. I, evaluate myself based on how I act now. I make amends to myself and to the people around me by not drinking. Similarly, outside of addiction, other things have obviously happened, you know, big bad things that could easily have derailed my life and controlled my life, if we're talking about stop choosing a bad life for yourself. Things with friends, things that made me really angry at the world. There's a lot of stuff, and I'm sure you have a lot of stuff too. There'll probably be one or two like headlines that stick out in your mind of things that have happened that really still affect you to this day. And I don't want to downplay any of that. It's important. That thing clearly had a big impact on you for a reason. But you can start slipping into, because that bad thing happened, whatever it was, you might start thinking, I'm not good enough, or they don't love me, they don't care about me, I'm unlovable. I mean, that's a brilliant Smith song, Unlovable, but that's not going to help you moving forward. Stop defining yourself as the one who was dumped, or the one who can't make friends, or the one who's not good enough. You just stop defining yourself based on that thing that happened to you that really affected you. That doesn't mean it didn't have a big impact on you, but stop attaching it so much to your identity. This is again where I think recovery is really helpful, because when I talk to other alcoholics, yes, we do talk about what it was like when we were drinking, but we don't dwell on that. The point is, we're all here now. What can we do today to help other people and to move forward? We're not defining ourselves by what happened. Yes, these things happened, but you don't have to let all those bad things define your present. You can choose a better life for yourself. You don't have to be choosing a bad life for yourself. So stop defining yourself based on what happened to you. Now, it is of course worth saying that these things aren't easy. I'm not saying that at all, and I hope it's not coming across that way. And you might need help dealing with some of these things, you know, professional help, speaking things through with a doctor or with a counsellor, particularly if you're dealing with childhood trauma. Things are very embedded, they run deep, and your mind can even have like a defense mechanism to stop you from dealing with these things. This is not a video to watch if you are dealing with any of that stuff. You definitely need to speak to a professional. Again, I'm just speaking from my experience here, and I am not a professional. Yes, something bad happened to you, but you don't have to define yourself by that. And this is very liberating when you realise and you accept it, but there can also be a point where you're resistant to it because there is comfort in living in the past or in living in the bad thing that happened to you. You may have attached yourself to it and gain a sense of identity from it. And so it might take some work to disentangle yourself from that and decide, yes, this is a big thing that happened to me, but I'm not going to let it define me anymore. And I'm not going to choose to focus more on that thing. Instead, I'm going to focus on the present and what I can do going forward. Okay, these are big things, and again, I'm sorry if I'm being harsh, but I hope that you can see where I'm coming from, because you might have experienced a similar thing. So we've talked now a bit about accepting things in order to let go. Now let's talk about the next step, the part 2, which is letting go to move forward. You need to let go to move forward. We talked a bit about acceptance. Acceptance is so important because you need to accept the situation you're in, the place you're at in your life, in order to let go, and then through letting go, you can move forward. In terms of me and my addiction, I held on to, why is it me? Why has it happened to me? Why is this something that I have to deal with? I held on to that attitude and to those questions for quite a long time, and that was holding me back. Those questions show that I still had some issues with the part that we've already talked about, issues with acceptance. If I'm thinking, why me? I've clearly not yet accepted that I am an alcoholic. Now I am at that stage where I have completely accepted. Thankfully, I've worked through those issues because, well, it can be a way, it can be a sneaky way for your addiction to get you to pick up again if you're thinking, oh, you're not an addict. But if you get stuck on that why, that's not gonna help you. Again, I talk about this a bit in my video, no one is coming to save you. Yes, bad things have happened, but you can't focus on why, asking why they've happened, and you have to deal with them. So me asking why does it have to be me? Why am I an alcoholic? Why do I have to deal with this in my 20s when so many people who I meet who are also alcoholics, they deal with it in their 40s, 50s, they got however many extra years of drinking. It's like, yeah, but if I'd continued, I wouldn't have got to my 40s. Like, it was bad. You can't focus on the why. It's not going to lead anywhere. Yes, okay, existentially it's interesting to think about all of these big questions, but why this bad thing happened to you? Dwelling on that question is not going to enable you to let go. You're still holding on to something there. You may have accepted, okay, this thing happened, but if you're still asking why, you're still holding on to it. You're not able to let go and move forward. I still don't know why I'm an alcoholic. I mean, I have plenty of ideas. Maybe it's something that's just in my nature, wanting to run away. Maybe it is a genetic thing. You know, some people believe that they are born alcoholic. I don't know if I believe that about myself, but there are definitely things that have happened that have like pushed me in that direction. But I've had to let go of the idea of why, of working out why me. Poor me, right? You can so easily go into the poor me's, of goes down the road of self-pity. Again, I talk about that in my other video, link in the description, and it's just not helpful, and it's just not going to help you move forward. You need to learn to let go. Similarly, if you've had, I mean, I'm talking about addiction here, but if you've had something bad happen to you, something horrific, traumatic. You might ask why. Say, why God? Why has this happened? Why, universe, have you let this happen? Why do bad things happen to good people? Could do a whole other video on that. What's the meaning of this? Is there some point to this? Sometimes life is cruel and there is no meaning. Sometimes the meaning is that there are horrible people in the world who will do horrible things to other people. I think it's important because these issues are like deeply emotional and you're thinking about past and it's very internal. So I do think there's a spiritual element here. If we're going to talk about why bad things happen to good people, some people will tell you that it's God's will that this thing had to happen to you. I just want to dispel that for a second. No. You did not have to go through something horrible because it was God's will. Like, I think this is such a misunderstood thing, and if you grow up like in the church or around religion, you might hear that, oh, it's God's will that this thing happened. And I don't know, sometimes it's a well-meaning thing, but other times it's sort of like people are vindictive about it or view something that happened to you as like a moral failing or some kind of punishment. You must have done something to deserve that. No, nothing bad that has happened to you is your fault or is the result of God's will. That's such a twisted thing to say, and as I say, even if it comes from a well-meaning place of like, oh, they're with God now, it was God's will, like he wanted them back. Excuse me? No? Like, it's God's will versus God's world, and a lot of the bad things that have happened are absolutely not God's will. It's a result of God's world. Pete Greig talks more about this in his book, God on Mute. I will find the right one and link it for you in the description. He goes into this issue so well, and I just think it's important to dwell on this like spiritual side of it, because in terms of like choosing a bad life for yourself or focusing on the bad thing that's happened to you, these things run deep. And if people are telling you that it was somehow your fault or you deserved what happened to you, like, no, just no. Anything bad that happens that good things come out of, I hear some people talk about like, oh, I'm so grateful that I'm an alcoholic, or I'm so grateful for this bad thing happening. That's because God will take anything and turn it for good, but the bad thing didn't need to happen for something good to come out of it. Like, it's not God's will that this horrible thing happens so that you can then have this realization. No, God will work through the bad thing, but that bad thing was a result of the world and the world being created in a certain way, which we're not going to go into either, but I could like make a whole video about why bad things happen to good people, because it is such a big topic and there is so much to discuss. Whatever has happened to you is not your fault and you did not deserve it, and you don't need to define yourself by that, by what happened to you. But also you need to realise that holding on to whatever you feel about what happened is not helping you, and you need to be able to move forward. And in order to do that, you need to let go. So you might be holding on to anger, to pain, to grief. There are a couple interesting sayings about anger, which you may have heard of. Anger is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. Anger is like holding a hot stone and throwing it at someone. You're the one who gets burnt. It's a really powerful emotion, and it's like a masking emotion as well. If you're feeling angry, there's probably all sorts of things underneath going on there that are more painful, particularly fear. That's probably a big one. Well, this is certainly speaking from my experience, a lot of anger underneath it is fear. Holding on to that anger is not helping you, and you need to learn to let it go. Fine, but that's a really hard thing to do as well. Something that helps me, or like an analogy that I find useful, is, so if you think about letting go of something, you're losing something, you're loosening something's grip over you, you're letting it go. So something that helps me is picturing like a balloon, and you've let go of it for whatever reason, it's suddenly out of your grasp, you can't hold it, it's gone now, it's out of your reach. You can reach for it, you can cry, you can be like, oh my gosh, I've lost my balloon, like, and whatever the balloon represents to you. You can have this horrible reaction of, oh my gosh, it can really affect you, but all of that stuff, all of those reactions, they're not bringing the balloon back. The balloon is gone. What you can do is just watch the balloon float away. It's gone, it's done, you have no control over it anymore. There's nothing you can do, but you can accept that it's gone and let go of any attachment to it and then move on. You don't have to be affected by the balloon anymore. You don't have to be affected by what happened to you anymore. That's not to say that it hasn't had a big impact on your life, and it may have changed your life irrevocably, but you don't have to let it have so much power over you still. You can choose to let it go and choose a better life for yourself. So you go through accepting things, letting things go, and then finally you can move forward. I hope what I was hoping to get across has come out. I don't want to say that you need to get over something, because I know these things that have happened, they are really hard to get through, but I do think that sometimes you can make yourself comfortable in the darkness and make yourself comfortable in the bad thing, and that will hold you back from making a better life for yourself in the future or even in the present, because you're just constantly living in that darkness. So I hope some of what I've said has helped you. You can let go of these things. You can get through things that you thought were impossible, unforgivable. You will get through them, and you will surprise yourself by your strength and your resilience. This week on my channel, I am doing a daily video challenge. I am uploading one new video every day, so please subscribe to follow along if you would like. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have got something from this. Please comment below if that is the case. God bless, thank you for watching, and I will see you either tomorrow or I will see you in the next one.